one time I thought that X was gonna give it to me. And then he died.
Yeah, that's
unfortunate. That's a thing.
Rip.
And then another time I thought Triple X was gonna be cool because Rammstein was in the movie, but then it fucking blew, guy.
It was bad.
And then another time,
Ice Cube.
yeah, no, I was about to say, guy. Another time I thought Triple X 2 was gonna be cool because Ice Cube was in it, but then I was like, oh wait, I watched Triple X 1. Clearly, this one's gonna suck.
Yeah, and then Xander Cage returned after that,
and nobody wanted
what
that.
What the hell?
So I don't have a good history with X-related things.
No.
That is until X came out. And I don't mean X-Men, which I guess could be an X-related thing, but there's too many letters in there.
Yeah, too many.
X. Straight up. Just an X, guy. Ty West movie. Ty West, in case you don't know, is prominently a horror movie director. And he's kind of like an unsung fucking talent. Now, some people that love horror might be like, what are you talking about? You fat lard?
Yeah.
Clearly we know who Ty West is.
How'd you read my mind?
But even then, guy, I don't think he gets anything close to
except for this one.
He's great, and by this point he has kind of cemented a reputation in being able to recreate evoke and recreate entire eras of horror in a single product. House of the Devil with the Satanic Panic and stuff like that. The found footage era with one of my favorites, The Sacrament. He's just fucking great, man. And yeah, I have to show you more. Thankfully, have quite a selection there. But I love Ty West, and I was very excited to hear that A24, which is a studio that actually fucking matters, that when they say from the studio that brought you, it actually means something. Because who gives a shit that Sony made something else, because they can just as well make something good as just bid Morbius. Which, by the way, I like Morbius more than Ghostbusters 2016. I'm just saying. Morbin time.
It's Morbin time.
But, A24 is a studio that actually gives a shit. And though that doesn't mean that you're going to like every movie that come out. In fact, very niche movies. But I was very glad to see them go, we're going to put a little fucking money in the Ty West investment piggy bank. And apparently it was a good investment because X was a hit critically. And, it's already going to have a fucking prequel to it. And there's a plan for a sequel because technically this is a middle story.
Midquel.
And typical of Ty West, it's more about capturing a moment, So what does X exactly capture? X captures that 70s era kind of avant-garde, anybody can reach for the stars of creativity feeling behind filmmaking. And that particular notion is put into this very seedy kind of setup, very darkly comic setup, if you will, where we have a group of wannabe pornographers, people that see this as their shot to get big and live a lot more freely by cashing in on this trend, but also kind of bringing in, as was typical of the time, a lot of like creative elements. You got to remember that in the 70s, where this is set, pornography actually had storylines and then was being shown in theaters, but you also had the exploitation stuff. You had stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which plays a big role in this movie in a lot of ways. They were movies that technically were the grime on the underbelly of cinema, and yet they had the structure and the artistic vision behind them to put them on another level as well. They existed in this weird mishmash gray area where the extreme and the artistic could just kind of walk hand in hand. And so X tries to evoke this entire notion with these pornographers that head out to the countryside of Texas to film their magnum opus of dicking down, if you will, and thus are introduced to this weird rural old couple that well, you just know it's gonna get weird, guy. It's a horror movie, right? Gotta get weird, guy.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty weird. I gotta say that. X is very much a dark comedy, as much as it is horror. And I know that's not exactly a particular subgenre or sub-genre, I guess in that case, that's gonna be easy for a lot of people to kind of go along with. You know, some people just like their horror to be horror. Some people don't understand how comedy can exist with such dark elements. But I think this is a good example of something that could communicate that to a larger audience. X is, because it handles it pretty fucking well. And it also brings a lot of themes from stuff that it's taking clear influence from. I mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this is a movie that very much homages Chainsaw Massacre in a lot of ways structurally. The idea of, you know, the rural and urban cultural clash, very much there. The weird descent, the increasingly weird descent into madness element. But it also subverts a lot of those things, you know, especially in terms of the final girl and the idea of having a very prominent theme that is very much anti-establishment, anti-repression, anti-religion as an organized religion. So that's a really interesting mix of all this stuff. And that, in my eyes, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, that it's pulled off very effectively. I mean, I have nothing but appreciation and admiration for that. Because it does all that stuff that I just blathered endlessly about very fucking well. And I don't know, man. It was a very fun experience for me to watch X. But I don't know what you thought about it. Clearly, I enjoyed it. Did you hate? Do you want a 69? Anybody in the cast, especially the old people?
No, old people only.
Just the oldies?
Yeah, I want a 69. Them boys.
That guy's tooth.
That guy's tooth. Oh yeah, tooth.
That tooth was disturbing. Possibly the most disturbing thing in the movie.
I liked it. I don't think I loved it as much as you did, but I did enjoy it. That's it.
Thoughts?
That's my review.
Damn, homie. That's it. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it quite a bit.
A damn homie.
I think that it's not really a problem, but you know, the freaking the final girl was so unlikable to me. That's it. That's a critique, I guess.
I think that's kind of the point.
It is. I know it's the point, but it's still a thing that I guess stood out. I guess not negatively, but
then don't get me wrong. I understand that 100%, and I think it's something that, though he didn't 100%, I didn't explicitly state that when I was talking to our former co-host, The Guardian. I think that's something he may have had an issue with, and I understand that. You know, a lot of people want to be behind the protagonist, and the protagonist here is largely portrayed as unlikable. But ultimately, what the movie is trying to make, and I know you understand that, I'm just saying it. Ultimately, the point the movie is trying to make is trying to impress upon the audience the importance of not being under the restrictive hold of something to the point where it destroys your own self-worth. And having somebody that is so dead set on not being held under any fucking microscope or in the palm of anybody's hand as your lead, it's a big risk. I think it pulls it off, and I think it's something that works a lot better upon another viewing, obviously, because you're not like, you're aware that, you know, this is going to go somewhere. But yeah, I can totally understand an audience being like, why is this the, you know what, because she is very unlikable.
It kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, a taste of gross old man balls. Because I was just kind of like, man, she's super unlikable.
Also, the old man balls left that taste.
Yeah, that too. I was sucking the guy's balls. So at the end, I was kind of like, man, but she sucked. I wanted her to die this whole time.
Trust me, it's so much more of a cathartic thing when you see it, and when you rewatch it, and the kind of like satisfying irony of that is that when you do rewatch it, you already are preloaded with all this information about her.
Yeah, true.
And a lot of these themes hit so much harder. So that's another thing, by the way, that I appreciate about the movie is that it's inherently rewatchable because of that. Of course, if you're willing to get over the fact that that maybe your first experience with it, some elements are not exactly per, you know, what is usually the way things usually are approached, and that's one of them, you know. Another one would be kind of like leaning heavily into the idea of the times and the artistic movement behind it. Another one being the whole concept of cultural clash, which, you know, in our modern times is a big thing, you know, so that could also ratchet up some, or raise some hackles, if you will. There's also, some people might find some of the comedy a little bit too much, or maybe they find that because that is there, the horror is not too much, you know, or what have you. There's uncomfortable topics of sexuality that are breached that could be overtly comedically represented just as much as they are fucking disgusting because, you know, old people having sex is kind of like gross, even though it's perfectly normal, right? But all these weird...
I feel like this whole movie is just gross. Old people are gross.
Yeah, yeah,
that's it.
Kinda. But, you know, it's also super cool that as much says something about the viewer as it does try to make its own point. It's kind of like this double-edged sword because really one of the other themes in the movie that's trying to make pretty clear is that we've kind of repressed ourselves into degeneracy through, you know, social norms, a lot of them informed by religion here in America. And I think that's, of course, one of the things that ultimately redeems the unlikable main character is the fact that she's bucking a system that has created perversity. And that's kind of one of the big ideas in the movie, you know, that people become what they become because they're not allowed to just be people because of the way our society restricts things. So, you know, one of the big things in the movie is that the villain kind of comes off as quasi-sympathetic and quasi-likable. And what I love about it is that they found a way...
about likable, but sympathetic.
Likable in the sense that we can understand where she's reached. You know?
Yeah.
Sympathetically likable.
Yeah.
Is what I'm
That's
getting.
not like I would hang out.
No, I wouldn't hang out. I'd punch.
Yeah.
But
especially with them titties all flopping.
I thought it was really... Oh, yeah, them titties was bad, guy. Well, I thought it was really cool. I know some people might, you know, not like it. But I thought it was really cool. And I'll say, the reason I'm saying this is not only because of the way it supports the theme, but because old people makeup is hard to pull off. And I'm not going to say, the old man looked really good.
But, yeah, I actually didn't know that the old man was not an old man.
But Pearl, you know, it's kind of hit or miss. It's not awful. It's kind of hit or miss.
That one's noticeable.
But the fact that the same actress is playing the main character and the main villain only underlines kind of, you know, not only, you know, the villain's plight, but also the thematic plight of the villain, you know? They're a reflection of what each other could have been and what it could end up being. And I thought that was so cool. And it worked really well for me. I don't know, man. You know, I'm big into themes in movies, and I really love movies that lean into that and sew a lot under a surface. And I really enjoy it when the movie can be enjoyable just at surface level, but also can be enjoyable on this completely different level. And that I could be so light about it was also a big plus. I really liked the cast in this. I don't know what you thought about the cast, but the cast is really likable. And one dude was totally just like a Matthew McConaughey clone or something. Mm-hmm. Just saying. The kills were pretty cool. There's a cute-ass fucking gator in it. Can't go wrong with a cute-ass gator. You know, there's BBC in it, so you know our boy, the Guardian, is gonna love it.
Sadly, I think he was my favorite character, BBC boy.
He was pretty cool, guy. I mean, reduced him to BBC boy, but to be fair, mad hanger.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You know, just there's a lot there to enjoy. Now, this is not the first time a Ty West movie has kind of caused this weird divisive effect. You know. In the response to it, because you're not alone in this kind of like weird, indecisive, kind of gray area about it.
I liked it. I just didn't.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah. You know, and it varies. It varies from, you know, towards where you were at to the other end of the spectrum.
Like, I don't think it's the greatest thing ever. It's basically what it boils down to. But it is cool.
But like his movie House of the Devil very much had that same effect, where there's people that just are like, why does anybody like this? And there's people that are like, dude, this movie's fucking amazing. So I think that's actually really fucking good for horror, that a movie could cause conversation where people are not so much going fuck this movie or fuck yeah, but they are kind of like in the weird murky middle area where they understand that there's something there and they can't 100% say something, or if they do, they're really well informed on either side. I think that's great. I think that discourse should go hand in hand with good movies, or at least movies that people think are good and others may not think so, but they can, kind of a little chatter about it or wonder exactly, what did I just experience now? You know what I'm saying? And I think this is a movie that does it. Now, on a purely cinematic level, there's a lot of stuff to be enjoyed here. Like, as aforementioned, there's a lot of influences that go into this movie. One of the most overt ones, obviously, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's downright, pastiche-style shots that just mirror exactly that. And, of course, the whole structure of it is pretty much, that. And, it's kind of like that idea remixed and leaning more into the humor that, ironically, Tobe Hooper intended for the first one, and having more overt themes rather than just this kind of like ride into terror, So, there was that. Plus, I gotta say, the movie uses Blue Oyster Cult. Granted, the song that everybody uses, but you gotta love that. I'm just saying. Anyway, you want to add something, guys? I've been blabbering here.
No.
Nothing, guys?
No.
Hating?
No, I'm not hating.
I think you're hating, guy.
I'm not hating, guy.
You're not going to share the sweet-ass marzipan of victory?
Nah, homie. I'm good. Because marzipan sometimes doesn't let me speak like I can right now.
I just learned that right now.
Yep.
Anyway, let's give a score on a scale of 1 to 10. Again, relative to this type of milk. Milk? I need some right now.
Yeah, you do.
Relative to this kind of movie.
I liked it. I do. I don't know. I think it would be better as on second viewing because I felt like there was some stuff that was kind of not answered. I felt a little like, I don't know. I didn't find the old people that interesting, I guess, is what I would say, for villains. You know what I mean? And then, like, again, I didn't like the main characters. I was kind of like, come on, guy. But again, maybe, like you said, knowing these things pre-hand will help. But I can't speak to that, so I'll give it a mad 7 for now. Though I liked it, I didn't, super think it was perfect or anything. But it is an enjoyable movie.
I really, really fucking love this movie, man. And but I do realize that it's not gonna be for everyone. But I do think, dare I say, that it's a movie that you will greatly appreciate upon reviewing. I just really liked everything about it, not just for the reasons that I gave, but just strictly as a film. Very enjoyable. Again, kind of like a very morbid humor to it. And it managed to homage so much without feeling like a knockoff, even though it does share a lot of the bones of a lot of stuff. But given the intentions behind it, it just feels gratifying. And I'm very interested to see where this project goes, because this is just one installment when he plans to be kind of like a a movie film series that explores different time, that visually communicates its themes, though they're all linked, through a different era in filmmaking. And that's just a fascinating project, whether you like the movie. It's not just a fascinating idea to get behind. Like, whoa, this guy's going to now tackle the prequel to this through the lens of early Hollywood, and the sequel to it through 80s video horror. That's pretty weird. That's pretty cool. That's pretty audacious. So I like all that. I'll give the movie a 9. Yeah, man. Just a real fun time. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's worth checking out because it is something that you don't commonly experience in the cinema. And again, it is kind of like a conversation starter in a lot of ways. But anyway, let us know what you think about X if you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, like I said, I give it a little looky-loo, guy. Marzipan?
No, me.